you're recording already.
I'm recording already. Yeah, we're recording. We're recording, yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Welcome to 17 episode, that is.
17 already?
Yeah.
Mate.
Of Seeking Focus.
Seeking Focus.
Welcome to Seeking Focus, a podcast that provides photographers and videographers with a place to critically compare technology, share ideas, and enhance their skills.
So, Marty, how's your week?
Mate, you know what? I seriously had enough. It's a good problem to have, right? But the problem is I've got too much work. I don't know if it's a good thing or not, man, but I'm struggling big time. And everyone's saying, why don't you employ someone or get someone to help you and stuff, you know? I mean, I'm just like, I don't trust people other than you, obviously. But, look, it's just hard because, working and editing till 1-2 o'clock in the morning and then next morning get up and do the same thing, and I just got to push back. I haven't seen my droning boys for a while. I just keep going. I don't know, man. I just keep going on about it. How was your week? Come on, tell me.
Yeah, my week was okay. Just busy. 9 to 5 working, 9 to, and did a couple of shoots as well. So that was pretty good.
Stop.
Yeah, I'm not as busy as you. We're not all as busy as you, which is not a bad thing because I can take a break occasionally. That's needed. But so actually, it's something very exciting happened this week. Videoguys, who are located in Melbourne, videoguys.com.au.
They're in Notting Hill, aren't they?
Notting Hill, that's right. Yeah,
Yep.
They sent me through an item for us to review.
Woohoo! What is it?
So it's the Ronin RS3 Pro. Pro, yeah. And
good job. Thank you, Video Guys.
Yeah, it was a great surprise. We were meant to have the rangefinder on the top of that, but unfortunately the stock of that in Australia at the moment is very limited. Then again, so's the RS3 Pro. That's also quite limited as well.
Right.
And for people who don't know what the RS3 is, it's actually a gimbal. And the RS3 Pro is a gimbal as well, which allows you to take a bigger payload than the RS3 standard one. Yeah, right. And for me, it's a big deal because my camera, by comparison to yours, is ginormous.
Yeah, Blackmagic is bigger than even the Pocket is bigger.
Yeah, and they're an awkward shape as well, to say the least. So for me, gimbals have been something that I really haven't involved myself too much with. There was the Ronin M, which I originally had for another camera. Then I got the Ronin S, which I believe you're still using.
Got as well, yeah.
Yeah, so I've still got both of those gimbals. I just don't use them because none of them work with the Blackmagic. It's just too big and too heavy. Yeah. And then they released the RS2.
So DJI designed this specifically for Blackmagic, you reckon? Or because it's bigger and chunkier? Or you reckon?
Not necessarily for Blackmagic, but for cameras as big as Blackmagic. So the RS3 Pro, there is a difference between the RS3 and the RS3 Pro. The RS3 will hold, I believe, about 2.5. Sorry, actually, it might be 3.5 kilos, I believe. Yeah, 3.5. My apologies. And it's designed for a smaller camera, so the RS3 would be more suited to something like a Sony, for example, that you shoot on. But when it comes to a bigger camera, which weighs more, and it's an awkward sort of shape, the RS3 Pro is bigger. It's bigger, it's wider, and it has a lot more features on it. So I was very excited. I threw my Blackmagic straight onto there. One of my many Blackmagics are now sitting on top of it, and I forced you to use it as well.
I did.
It was actually funny seeing you holding Blackmagic. So basically,
look, I do like that camera, man, but it's just my eyes are stuffed, man. So I need autofocus, man. I
know. Well, actually, funny you should say that because when you put the rangefinder on, which we'll talk about later on, it does make the Blackmagic, which is a fully manual camera, it makes it into an auto-focusing camera.
Autofocus, okay. It's got a motor, obviously, on it, and then it pulls the focus from the lens.
The RS3 and RS3 Pro both come with a motor, which runs manual lenses. Yeah, right. But with the rangefinder on top, what it does is it actually feeds through and then basically tells that motor what to do.
Right.
So you're looking confused there.
I do. So hang on. So the rangefinder what is it? Just obviously like a box.
It's a box that sits on the front with another camera on top of it. So it's actually another camera. And what you do is when you get it, you establish, you do a few sequences for it. So you say, this is 1 meter away, you take a photo. Then you say this is 4 meters away and take another photo. And it actually focuses on that distance.
Right,
and then it bases all the shots on those inputs.
So it's almost like almost like a radar or infrared. I don't know. How does it know that the subject is 2-3 meters away? I mean,
well, I don't actually haven't had the chance to try one because we didn't have stock of it.
Of
but it sends out a signal. Now, I'm not sure if that's infrared, if it's ultrasonic or what it is. And it basically gauges it on that. And it's got a predetermined point on the lens that it sets to. And it remembers. Now, from what I've seen of it, it's not bad. By comparison to the autofocus on a Sony, for example, it's not competitive. I would still say Sony, when it comes to autofocus, wins hands down. But for a camera that has never had any focus abilities other than a manual focus, it's a huge step. So
keep in mind as well. I mean, Blackmagic is a cinema camera, right?
It is.
So they do potentially use those cameras in making movies with them, right?
They do.
And as far as I know, and I mean, look, I haven't really used the Red or Ari or whatever else, but none of those cameras actually have autofocus in them.
No, they don't.
Everything is just basically being focus pulled, right, by an actual person.
So it's either yourself as you're using the camera, you're focusing it by hand, or you basically got a motor on there and you've got a secondary person who's pulling focus while you're filming. So you're sitting there with a screen watching the image and you're focusing the image as it's happening. So that's how it works. But look, so let's get back to the RS3 Pro. A lot of people are asking the question, should I be rushing off and getting myself one? Well, we'll discuss that at the end and you can tell me what you think. Just a couple of differences between the RS3 and the RS3 Pro. The RS3 actually is an alloy body and the arms are all alloy. The RS3 Pro is carbon fiber. So it feels nice. It looks nice. It's like a Ferrari.
Does it mean it's actually lighter as well?
It is. Well, it is lighter, but it's a bigger unit, so technically it's not actually lighter. So the RS3, I believe, is 1.6 or something like that, and the bigger unit, the RS3 Pro, is about 200 grams more.
So just under 2 kilos.
Yeah, so 200 grams. Not kilos, grams.
But all up.
Well, all up, it's actually not that much heavier, so I don't know how much it is all up when you put everything on top of it, because we're still missing a few pieces. But it is not very heavy by comparison, because I actually weighed it up to the original Ronin S, and it was probably only about 100 to 150 grams heavier, and it's a much bigger unit. Payload.
Sorry, I'm just going to step back a little bit.
Oh. Okay.
Because we're talking about the Ronin's RS and this and that. Maybe we should basically start from the beginning where all the gimbals actually started. So initially DJI released Ronin M, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then that Ronin M had 2 big handles on it, and it was quite chunky. You couldn't really put the camera down on it, right?
You couldn't, because there was handles on either side, in the middle there was just the camera hanging. So you needed to hold it with 2 hands. And at any stage that you wanted to put it down, you had to have a stand sitting there so you could put it on top of the stand. Right. It was very inconvenient. And like, for example, if you want to scratch it,
it was quite comfortable. I found it quite comfortable when I was using it. You know what I mean?
It was, but the practicality of it, you couldn't put it down. So if you had walked off from the stand and you were like 200 meters away filming and you finished your filming, you'd be like, well, I can't put it down. So you'd have to carry it all the way back to where the stand was. So that was
Ronin M. That was the very first one that DJI actually released, right?
That was, yeah.
And then after that, they obviously go, well, hang on, we can't put it down, so let's release this Ronin S.
No. There was one in between the S. It was the pro grade version straight after the M. So it looked exactly like the M, but it had the big cage on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
And that thing was worth a small fortune.
Yeah.
You know, so it was
but that was mainly used for like the sort of this more cinema cameras as well, right?
Yeah, I guess
because
technically,
it can potentially hold a bigger load and all that sort of stuff.
But I don't know.
We're talking about more of a specifically smaller units, right? Here, we like on this episode, right? Because we don't want to go into. I mean, we're not aiming potentially this for, I guess, bigger companies or whatever else, right? We're sort of aiming it for smaller, you know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We don't all own Sonys.
No, that's right. But look, yeah, I know what you mean. It was quite a big one.
It was a big unit. It was like $8,000 or something. It was
right.
completely out of the bounds of most people at that stage. I mean, even the Ronin M was only like $1,500 or something.
Yeah.
So it was a huge step up, and you had the whole cage on the outside and had little feet, and you could stand it up, which is really practical. But at $8,000, $9,000, somewhere around there, I can't remember the exact figure. It was just too much.
Yep.
You know, and unless you were a massive studio, you couldn't afford things like that. So they went off, and then they released the Ronin S.
Yep. Okay. So and then the S one is the one that I've got. Basically, it's a standard sort of. How do you picture it?
It looks like a mini monopod.
Yeah, mini monopod
with a tripod at the
stabilized,
bottom.
Obviously, yeah. So and then that was the S, and then they released the SC,
which was designed for smaller cameras
again.
It didn't have as strong a battery, and it didn't have a payload, which was very good. So
I remember it was very, very compact though, wasn't it?
It was, and like for example, if you had like a 60D Canon or something like that, which was like made of plastic and very light, you could get away with it.
Yeah.
But if you had a 5D Mark IV or a 3,
it was quite tight.
you couldn't put it on there.
So then the next one up was the RS2, right? That was the sort of the one with the red lines, and it looked pretty schmick as well, very similar to the new RS3, right?
There's a lot of visual similarities between the two, yeah. So the RS2 was a huge step up, and it's still quite a great gimbal. I never purchased one because still, even though it was a step up, it still wasn't suitable for bigger cameras. And I mean, you could put one on there, you could squeeze it on, half the camera was hanging off the side, you had to counterweight it. So, you know, there was people walking around with 400 or 500 grams of extra weight on the side trying to balance it out. Yeah. And, you know, unless you live in the gym, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be walking around for too long with a 5 to 7 kilogram gimbal with camera and stuff. Right. You know, and then that's without the batteries and so on and so on. Yeah. So the RS2 was a great unit, but it just wasn't suited to the bigger cameras.
Yeah. Like the Blackmagics, obviously. Yeah. So for Sony's, it would have been fine.
It still is, and to this day, it's still a great, gimbal. If you own one and you don't have a big camera and you don't need to put the extra weight on there, I would say don't rush out and buy the RS3. It is a step up, but do you need it? Well, probably not.
I've got still mine. Ronin S.
Yeah,
the very first one.
I have mine too.
I think it's
behind the couch, and I was like, go behind the couch. I don't want to see you ever again.
But I still reckon it's a great little thing. I mean, it's the gimbal wise. I mean, it still does everything quite well, and
it does. It was a great gimbal. The M series. I've still got the M. Not that I haven't used it in years, but it's sitting there. They're both great gimbals. The RS2 is a great gimbal. They're all great gimbals. As technology's advanced, though, they've also done different tracking abilities. The smoothness, the panning, everything has changed.
So this new RS3. So I've noticed it's got like a screen on it as well. Yep. Talk us through that.
It's a ULED screen. Now, the RS2 has a screen as well, but it wasn't a color screen, it was a black and white screen. The RS3 has a ULED touch screen. So the actual screen itself is a touch screen. The RS2 had little like buttons on the side and controllers and stuff that you flick through the thing. This you actually swipe across. It's very similar to the GoPro 10s. You know how you swipe? It's got the same sort of mentality. So it's got a little screen on the actual gimbal itself, so you can actually see what the camera's seeing. So you can use the back of the camera, or you can use that little screen. Screen, that works with the Raven Eye, which is a little transmitter that sits on the bottom. And it allows you to run through multiple options. Some of the technology that's gone into the RS3 and the Pro is just to die for.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty sexy stuff.
It is. It's so smooth. It's silky. It's just amazing all round. One thing that I actually did not know about the RS2 was the battery was not removable.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not.
So the battery's still in the handle, but you couldn't really remove the handle. Yeah. Everything was integrated.
Yeah, which is really weird. I haven't had one myself, so I can't 100% say that's true because it sounds a bit weird, but that's what I've been told. So I'm going based on that. Okay. But the RS3 and the Pro allow you to remove the handle, which is the battery, and you can actually have interchangeable batteries. And they're meant to last about between 10 and 12 hours. But of course, when you start putting rangefinders on, you put on, all the different accessories, motors, it starts chewing it up. And, it won't give you 10 to 12 hours if you're running all the accessories on there. But if it's just the gimbal by itself, like for example, if you put your Sony on there, you'd be looking at 10 to 12 hours, So that's pretty impressive. The Pro's got carbon fiber. And it does reduce the weight because it is a bigger unit. Some people say that it's a little bit hard to adjust. The micro adjustments on it are difficult, but it just depends on how you're trying to do it. If you're trying to push the arm through from the side, it's going to be a little bit difficult. The biggest selling point of the RS3 and the RS3 Pro, and this is the one that caught my attention straight away, is it's got a locking system.
I was going to say that. That was actually quite impressive when I touched it first. Yeah.
So when we say locking system, it's basically you press the on button or the off button, and the gimbal drops back into its little standby mode. It locks up, so it doesn't swing around, and everything's firm. And you can just literally pick up the whole thing from the handle and walk along. And hey, we've got a guest here.
My dog just walked in. Hello, Lucy.
Coming to inspect. Hello.
Yeah.
Get a microphone for the dog.
Yeah. Do you want to say hello?
You can hear it in the background. But so it locks up, and that means you can just pick up the whole entire unit with the camera attached and literally just walk along with it.
Yeah, which is pretty cool, man, because I must say, like, when I've got my Ronin S, I have to have a Velcro, pretty much Velcro the whole thing.
That's how it came from factory, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Here's your Ronin S, and the only way to make it stand still so it doesn't spin around is a piece of Velcro.
Which is, it is very unprofessional when you sort of go on the client site. And I must say, look, it's sort of a bit of a pain in the ass when you're sort of walking around with it and you still got the camera attached to it. The whole thing is just literally banging along and everything else as well. So the locking system is very impressive. And like, I think with the RS2, you actually physically lock it manually, yeah? But with this one here, everything is automatically done.
You press the on button and you see every single lock and click, 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 click. It's got three different locks on it for the three different arms. It is beautiful. It is fantastic. When I was putting it together, because we got it in a kit form and I had to put it together and put my camera on it, one of the things that I found was the instructions sucked.
All right.
I will outright say this: DJI has a problem with their instructions. Right? The paper-based instructions really do not tell you anything. You go to their website and they've got videos. Now, visually, those videos are great. Whoever's produced them,
they look good, yeah.
They're great. They look sensational. But you try and follow them for instructions, they're not that good. I mean, if you're admiring the artwork behind the way they've actually taken the photos and the video, it's great. But you try and actually get things to work, and it just doesn't happen. They go from one scene to the next without actually telling you there's a change. Yeah. Like when you're balancing it, they're talking about the top arm, and then suddenly it goes to the second arm, and you're sitting there going, where's this piece? I can't see this on the top arm. And they change from one piece to the next, to the next, to the next. So instructions suck. They're just completely crap. And
is it really that hard to figure it out, though? Like, as in, is it?
Well, look, there's a few things. Like when you're trying to set up the Raven Eye, for example, the Raven Eye basically plugs into the HDMI port on your camera because it needs a signal from the camera to transmit. But when you're trying to figure out which cable to plug into the auxiliary out, because there's a couple of plugs on the actual arm, you need to put it in the right one. If you don't put it in the right one, it doesn't work. And then when you do plug it in and you do get it working, you're like, oh yeah, look, the lights are on. Nothing's actually happening because no one's told you that there's an on-off switch on the side, which you've got to hold down for like 2 or 3 seconds before it comes on. So you see a light come on, and you're like, okay, so the light's on, it must be transmitting. But that light's just telling you it's in standby. It's like, well, why have a light at all? So, it took me a while to sit there. I'm sitting there holding all the buttons, and I'm thinking, okay, obviously this is what's happened. So I'm guessing a lot of the way as I'm putting it together. Finally got there. So look, it wasn't too bad, but it could have been a lot easier if DJI had actually bothered to put their instructions together properly.
Yeah, it's a strange one, man. I to be honest with you, I haven't actually seen any of the videos. But I mean, look, I think DJI have started, like a long time ago, just putting those instructional videos online. And yeah, they don't really include any sort of manuals or anything else anymore YouTubers, right? So
yeah, but I mean, with the Ronin S, did you find any instruction manuals when you got it? I didn't.
no, you're probably right. Actually, I probably searched, actually from memory now, I've actually searched through a lot of YouTube channel and try to get other YouTubers to get an idea of, like there was one setting that I really wanted to achieve was the infinity spin, when you're walking with it and the camera just spins on its own sort of angle. And I couldn't find it anywhere. Like DJI couldn't even tell me that, you know what I mean? So I actually found that someone else in Europe or whatever it was, or US, did the video on that, and that's how I managed to sort of set up the Ronin.
Yeah, you have to, like, third-party videos where people are promoting something or talking about something, well, shows like ours, which tell you how to do things. So that was a little bit disappointing. But once that was all established, the rest of it just worked. And it's been done really, really well. It comes with a number of accessories from the pack. It comes with a motor, so you can actually plug in a lens that has no autofocus on it. Yeah. So you can actually manually adjust that. And there's a little round controller at the front of the actual gimbal where your finger sits. So you can scroll left and right, and that'll actually adjust the and focus. It's
very nicely integrated too, and I just had as well, because on the Ronin S you've got a big chunky clunky wheel. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. The joystick controller I think could have been done a little bit better. It's smack bang in the middle, and if you're holding it, when you're holding the gimbal, your thumb's wrapped around it. It's not directly at the top, so it's a bit of a weird sort of grip, but it still works. There's also like a suitcase handle that comes with it, which is, I have to say, when I first pulled it out of the box, I thought it was broken or something. It was just so light. It felt like something was missing. It's paperweight. They've really gone all out on the construction on this one. It's really well built. The Raven Eye, also, which comes in the Pro kit, allows you to basically transmit your signal to your phone, which you can, and you can plug your phone on the side, so you've got like a third monitor there if you want. Or there's a couple of really cool features. One of them is, first of all, you can track people. So what you do is on the mobile app, or you can also do it on the screen, the ULED screen that is on the actual gimbal itself. You can draw a box around the person, and what will happen is the camera will recognize that person and then follow that person around the room. So the gimbal will move. When I say move, it doesn't actually get up and walk after these people, but it sits
follows
there.
The actual person.
Pans up and down, side to side. So if you had the gimbal sitting at a table, you could basically say follow this person. So, like, say for example, you're filming a wedding, and you can track the wedding couple dancing. Yeah, true. And you can walk away from the camera, and the camera will follow them and basically film everything. So you can go off and use a secondary camera or do something else, and the camera and the actual gimbal will track those people. Now, the tracking itself is not flawless. We were playing with it earlier on, and it can lose track of people. And I believe if you step in front of it, it basically focuses sometimes on a second person and moves away from the original subject. So would I leave it on the side of the dance floor to film a wedding couple or something like that?
You don't want to miss that shot.
No, you don't. So whilst it's cool, it's still got problems. Another feature of the Raven Eye is that you can actually control it by moving your mobile phone. So you can actually see what the camera's looking at through through your mobile phone, and then if you tilt the mobile phone left or right, up and down, the actual
repeat that movement.
So it's following exactly what you're doing. So it's almost like one of those. Cool. It's just an amazing feature. Where would you use it? Well, I don't know. But if you're like using a secondary camera and you're filming on a tripod and you've got that sitting somewhere else, you can actually control where you're filming. And it has a joystick control on it as well, or you can just control it from the mobile phone.
I'm just wondering, right? If you are into cars and whatever else, right, can you actually mount that, say, in the back of a car on like a tow bar or something like that, and then control the gimbal with a camera potentially from your phone?
Yes.
There you go.
So you can sit inside your car. And the actual Ronin RS3 and the 3 Pro actually come with a number of accessories that you can buy, aftermarket units, which basically you can connect them up. There goes your dog. It's going for a walk.
I'm going to try to kick her out.
So basically, you can actually buy tow bar mounts where the actual camera sits on top of it. You lose the battery, and you basically plug it in, and it sits on the back of your car. You can put it onto one of those Crane, jib, yeah, that's it. So you can actually get connections for it that fit onto a jib or a crane, onto sliders as well. So you can get all these different accessories for it. So yeah, you could put it on the back of a car because you can get parts for it like that. Additionally, you can also get the double handheld handles for it, so you can have it with two hands, so like the old style. And they sell the ones which have actually, I think Tilter has produced one which has actually no, it's not Tilter, DJI actually has it. Sorry, my apologies. Usually it's aftermarket parts, but DJI has released it, and on those handles they've also got the focus buttons and everything else. And you can just plug those in. So a lot of accessories there. Now
I've got to play with it a little bit more to be able to give you my full blown
review. And you got to learn how to use a Blackmagic as well.
I'll put my Sony on. I was trying to get you to take the Blackmagic off it, but you wouldn't have taken that off, mate. What's going on, mate? I want to put my Sony on it, mate.
It's super glued on there now. to be honest with you,
off.
I'm probably going to end up buying it, to be honest with you. I'm so impressed with it. All round, it's a great unit, and having a rangefinder on it will actually be really interesting. Because I mean, when you're using a gimbal, you're really concentrating on your walking, your moving, your panning. Having autofocus will really help. Because I mean, I've done a little bit of manual panning when I'm using a gimbal before, and it's not easy. There's some people out there who are amazing at it. I'm just not one of them. So
look, I think gimbal is almost like a art in itself. Work. Look, I do a lot of gimbal work myself, and I think maybe the RS3 is probably the way to go for me as well. The old Ronin is still working okay, but I think the benefits of the RS3 potentially will now outweigh the old gimbal. So I think for someone like Blackmagic users like yourself, I think it's definitely working with it. You know what I mean? So much better. And
even people who've got like the Komodos, the Reds, all those big cameras, it'll fit on there. And they work, and there's no problem, and it has the ability to carry that. The Pro can carry a weight of 4.5 kilos, which is actually
a huge thing.
That is a huge camera, But then again, it also depends on what type of lens you've got, and the motor in it does not struggle. It is a gutsy motor. With the Ronin S, the original one that I had, if I put a massive lens on it, it just couldn't keep up. It would go into seizures and start flopping around and stuff.
The biggest one that I put on mine was 24 to 70. The GM and G Master, and it seems to be handling it all right. But because obviously, overall my camera is much smaller and lighter potentially too. So.
Well, how did you balance that? Because I mean,
I don't really care anymore. I just slap it on there as long as it sort of hangs in one area. it just basically works. If it doesn't, I was just like, I actually the other day on the shoot, I was actually I forgot to tighten one of the handle on the sides, like as in not handle, but like one of those screwy things on the side, and the whole camera just dropped, and all of a sudden just started shaking and stuff. So I was just like, yeah, that's right. So I was just like, you know what? Nah, I'm just whatever. I'm not really fussed about it. Like if it dies, it dies. It's just an excuse to buy a new one potentially. You know what I mean? So, but look, it's the RS3. It is a very impressive unit. And
it's usually just the carbon you're looking at. That so it's like having an Italian sports car.
There
is another thing which the RS3 has, which the previous gimbals never did, and that's Bluetooth connectivity. So basically, there's no wires running to the camera. I mean, you can still run wires to the camera, but in this particular case, with my camera, I've just got Bluetooth on the camera. I've got Bluetooth on the gimbal. I switch on the gimbal, it unlocks, it goes into position. I switch on the camera. And bang, it all works. The record button on the gimbal works. I can do...
and that's what I found my Ronin S. The record button works, but it was playing up, and you got to set it up this way and that way. So it's just constant, battle with obviously making sure that everything is working. And you got that ugly cable sitting on the side as well, plug it into... And it's just constant. Like, I don't think the RS3 is obviously working a lot better with a lot many different cameras.
Yeah, it is. And
so that's why.
There's the Bluetooth connectivity is just amazing. It just works. I was skeptical because I've used Bluetooth stuff in the past, which has just been woeful. But once you connect it up, it just it's fantastic.
Yeah,
It just works. And at the same time, I can still use the Bluetooth between the camera, the gimbal, and I can also have Bluetooth on my phone, and all three of them are working together. Which in past I've never really discovered that you can have multiple connections at the same time, but it does work. So that was really good. One other thing, if you're a person who doesn't need the motor on the front to focus the lens, what you can actually do is you can basically go off and use the front wheel, which in this particular case allows you to go left or right. And for me, it changes the focus, but you can change that so you can make it so it changes the ISO, changes the aperture, it changes the white balance. You can program it to do whatever you want it to do.
That's interesting.
It has so many abilities to do different things. And plus, it has a whole bunch of accessories on the side with hot shoes and stuff, which you can actually plug in some of the RS2 features. So you can not only have a focus wheel on there, but you can run a secondary motor which does zooming. Or if you've got another manual lens which has got the aperture on the outside, you can do the aperture. So you can run multiple things at the same time.
Wow.
So it is hugely...
You're really selling it to me, man.
Look, I'm very impressed with it, and that's why I'm actually...
You're going to get it. She's like, don't tell the wife.
Yeah. I'm due for a new gimbal. I haven't told Video Guys that it's not coming back, but... But
if they give you a discount, why not?
Well, I don't know if they will. Let's find out. But yeah, so look, it has huge expandability. I'm impressed with it. The one thing that I think they could do a little bit better... and this is probably across the board for every person who owns a gimbal. The first thing is if you're running a microphone,
there's nowhere really to plug it in.
There's nowhere to plug it in because it needs to have a cable that runs to the camera. So if you're going to put the microphone on the body, there's plenty of space on the body for it. So if you want to do that, that's fine.
But the balancing is going to be out of whack with a bigger mic, right?
Well, you got to remember the RS3 Pro can do up to 4.5 kgs.
No, I'm aware of that. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to put a microphone on it, then you have to rebalance the gimbal, right?
You do, but I mean, it depends on what microphone you're using. Like the one that you're actually using to record off tonight, which is which one are you?
It's a Rode RS. No, sorry, that's me. RS. So Rode Go to Boom, I think it is. It's a little one.
Yeah, well,
little baby.
That would be a perfect microphone on the side of the camera, on the top of the camera. So that type of thing's not bad because it's very lightweight.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to put something a little bit bigger, like a boom mic or something like that on it, you wouldn't be able to put it on top of the camera. Right, you'd have to put it somewhere else, and then you'd have cables running. It would have been nice if there was somewhere where you could plug the microphone into the body and then ran the wires all the way up.
Yeah.
Which it does for the electrical parts of it. Because it's a whole bunch of plugs there, USB-C plugs on there, but it doesn't have anything for microphone. So that's a bit of a shame. But I don't think there's any gimbal that actually has that I know of. So that's
look, the thing is with my one as well, I actually run a wireless Hollywood transmitter, which is gives you a wireless signal, and then what I'll do, I'll give that sort of like an external monitor to a client, and then they can see what the camera sees, and they can obviously see obviously the shot we're getting and whatever else. With this, you potentially just use an iPad or like a phone or whatever else, and you can connect to it, right?
Yeah, it's because it's already transmitting off.
So maybe in the future they're working on something with sound. Maybe maybe there will be like a mic maybe connected to it or something like that. Who knows,
there is possibility. The other thing that was a little bit of a disappointment for me is it's got 3 USB-C plugs on the side of it, which sounds like there's a lot of plugs there, right? But the reality is once you put all the accessories in there, there isn't anything really left over. So one of the power cables runs to the transmitter. The other one runs to the motor, so you've got one spare USB-C plug, which it would be fantastic to run your camera off if you weren't going to go off and get a rangefinder on it. So I had 3. It would have been nice if they had 4 or 5, but then again, where do you stop? It would have been nice to have 15. So it's not going to happen. So there is 3 USB-C plugs there that you can actually run equipment off. But yeah, if you're running all the accessories that come with the camera, those are all taken. And one thing that you need to know is the rangefinder, I believe, needs to be using the bottom USB plug, or it just won't work. And of course, that's not written in any of the instructions anywhere. So if you are getting one and you're going to run the rangefinder on top, make sure you plug it into the bottom USB-C on the side handle. Okay. Otherwise, it just won't work.
Unless you're running a Sony.
Well, you wouldn't be using one of the... if you were running a Sony, you could use all those USB-Cs. You could be powering the camera. You could be...
Well, I was going to say, if I... and that's why I wouldn't mind trying this, because that means I can run the camera charging from the gimbal.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, but then, at the same time, whilst doing that... don't take my word for that. I haven't tried it, but I believe it.
Well, we haven't tried any Sonys on top, but
but it's a USB-C on the side, which produces power, which is running a lot of the other accessories. So why wouldn't you be able to?
Yeah.
I don't know what the drain is on a camera, and if it's capable, but logically it should. But once again, the battery, then you're going to be running camera, you're going to be running the gimbal, you're going to kill that battery, so you're going to have multiple batteries to go with it. But look, bottom line for me is it is a super fantastic gimbal. I'm really excited by it.
Well, hopefully you do some gimbal work now.
There is, yeah. So I don't have to do documentaries with tripods anymore. Yeah, though that is my forte, so I probably won't be running off and going too crazy with that type of stuff. Overall, though, for me personally, I think it's a great gimbal. If you're starting off and you don't have a huge budget, well, probably don't go for this. The cheaper option is the the RS3. Which I believe is probably about $700 to $800. But the Pro version is about $1,400. It's about double the price, just slightly under double.
So if you're running a Blackmagic, do you potentially recommend the Pro?
The Pro's the only one that will carry it.
But the Sony one, I'll be able to get away with normal standard sort of RS3, right?
Yeah, the standard RS3 would work perfectly with it. If you wanted to skimp, you could also go the RS2. So the RS2 would be perfect for a Sony.
Yeah.
It doesn't have all the whiz-bang technology, and it doesn't have the version 3 of the gimbal movements and smoothness and stuff. But it's a great gimbal to have. Yeah. So you can't really go wrong with it. If you're looking for something that's future-proofing, definitely the RS3 or the Pro is the way to go. If you've already got the RS2 and it's doing the job, should you rush off? No, not in my opinion. If it's doing the job and you don't need all the additional features, which, let's be honest, if you're getting away with it on the RS2, you don't need the RS3. If you have the the Ronin S series, there is a difference, and there's a huge difference. But like you said earlier on, you're still using it and you're getting away with it. And I've seen some of your footage; it's actually really impressive. So I guess that just comes down to talent.
You got to do the ninja walk.
The ninja walk, which I can't do. I've got the stumbling walk. The person who's half drunk coming home from a nightclub, tripping over his feet and falling into a gutter. That's why I need to have the new gimbal, because that helps me along. But you managed to use the Ronin S, which is the first series of the stand-up sort of gimbals, and you're doing a great job.
Well, look, it works, because the camera obviously, autofocus is pretty good on it. And like I said, even if I'm shooting at, say, 24 1.4, I mean, hey, the camera just logs onto the eyes straight away, and it just focuses the eyes. I mean, the other day I was shooting a client thing, and he was out in the factory, and I shouldn't have probably done it, but I was just like, hey, why not? Let's do it. I was shooting him talking to the camera at 24 1.4 with the Ronin, and the camera just basically got focus straight away. You know what I mean? Without any major issues, without any problems, it's just basically worked. So I was actually pretty impressed with that. And look, it works still. You know what I mean? So look, RS3 will be a really nice thing for me. If you got a bit of cash, hey, it's impressive. I mean, let's face it, man. You go into a client's site and you show them whiz bang gear, they're pretty impressed. So they're more than willing to give you more cash. And that's potentially what works, right?
I was going to say, I've still got the Ronin M at home. You can borrow that, man. That'll impress them beyond all belief.
It's massive.
It's like flying in on a helicopter. It's so big, But yeah, look, it all comes down to how much money you've got, what you're using, what you need it for. I have no choice but to go with the Pro Series RS3 because of the camera size, right? So that works. It's a no-brainer for me. But for a person who doesn't have such a big camera, RS3 just standard would be fantastic. The RS2 would be fantastic. And if you're really on a budget, I mean, secondhand, I think you can pick up the Ronin.
$300-400 potentially.
Well, yeah, the Ronin S, which is the early version, you can pick it up secondhand for. I've seen them as low as $200. I mean, that's a steal. But generally they're about $300 to $400 secondhand. Yeah. So if you're starting off, you've got a lightweight camera. The Ronin S is a good starting point. Definitely. You know, if you need the extra whiz bang, well, and you don't have already the RS2, go for the RS3. No doubt about it. But yeah, that's about really it. I mean, like I said, impressed. I'm actually going to buy it.
Yeah. So 2 thumbs up from you.
2 thumbs up from me. No doubt about it.
You rip that black magic off it so I can put my Sony on, so I can actually.
Never going to happen.
The super glue will fix everything, mate.
Yeah, you just got to learn how to use the black magic. Big thank you to Videoguys for sending this through to us. Even though I'm going to end up buying it, I just hope they haven't actually sold it to someone else, which they don't do. It's a test sample one.
That's good.
Yeah,
impressive.
So thank you very much to them for sending us through this item, and hopefully in the future they'll send us more stuff.
What's new in the future coming out? Any news? I haven't actually heard anything. Any new gimbals coming out? So
it's just this has only come out. It's like one thing that's actually quite disappointing. It's got nothing to do with with us, but it's DJI has had these gimbals floating around overseas in other countries for a couple of months now. And in Australia, it's virtually impossible to get your hands on them. Like they're sold out everywhere you go. You're gonna buy it and wait for a couple of weeks to show up. Which is unfortunate. I don't understand why they're doing stuff like that, but
it is disappointing, unfortunately. But I guess the US market is much bigger than the Australian market. There was 300 million people in the US compared to 25 million. And the market is that's it is what it is, I guess. We just have to wait.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but but look, definitely worth grabbing one if you need a gimbal and you need a big gimbal. RS3 Pro. Yeah.
All right, thanks, mate. It was good chatting about some new gear, which we haven't done for a while. So I might look into it as well. And
you can always borrow it. You're just gonna have to learn how to use my camera.
All right.
You want to.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. That's the end of another episode. And we'll speak to you. We won't speak to you. We'll speak to you soon. Take care.